आगबे ಕಲಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಊರು ಕೂಡ.
Am I audible to everyone? Am I audible? Right, almost 50% of people need to join. It creates difficulty for us each and every time waiting for the others to start the session. So I request all of you to make sure that all of you should log in at the stipulated time. That means you are supposed to be logged in at sharp 9 o'clock, right? Uh, so let us start our today's session, the continuation of the uh, understanding MapReduce frameworks. In the last class, we have started discussing the first version of the Hadoop 1.0 that is called as Classic, and we have discussed the functionality of Classic MapReduce framework. So my screen is visible to everyone. Is it visible to you or not? Okay. Right. So in the last class, we have started discussing the classic MapReduce framework. So where uh, at the highest level, we will be consider it as a 4 independent entities. One is the client, job tracker, task tracker, and the distributed file system. All right. So always the client will submit a job to execute a MapReduce job in the Hadoop environment. So after what is the process that exists during the submission of the job? Okay. So when you call the method submit method, when you call it internally, what happens is an instance of job submitter instance will be created. In turn, it will be called to the submit job internal. So what happens if what is the responsibility of the job interface, job submitter instance is, so it does the following activities. One is it creates the job ID. Next, it verifies the output and input paths. Okay, suppose if you are not specify the input path in the sense whatever the split that you have created, that will be stored in the data node. Okay, if you specify the path where that block is available, if everything is in a right manner, so that the job will start the execution process, right? If you did not specify, or if you specify incorrectly the input path or output path, what happens in that case is your job will not be running and it will respond with an error message. So make sure that when you try to when you specifying the output path, make sure that there is no path in the sense, suppose if you want to write your outputs into output.txt, if it is already exist, in that case it was raises an error message. So make sure that no such kind of file is exist that you have specified in your path. So similarly for the inputs also, if you incorrectly specify the input path, it is unable to construct the splits. So make sure that these two will be verified with the job submitter interfaces, and if you did any mistake, it raises an error message. And last, it copies the resources that are necessary for the execution of your MapReduce job, like jar file, okay, computation of input splits. Okay, so these are all things into the job trackers file system. Now you can observe, this is the job trackers file system. You can observe the arrow marks, that is shared file system. Example HDFS, sorry, from where it will access the data. Okay, so once you run the job, it will create a job ID, and then the resources are copied into the local file system for further processing. And finally, it informs to the job tracker like, I am ready for the execution with all the weapons, whatever is required for the execution of the job, right? So that will be informed with the method submit job. Okay, so these things we have discussed in the last class. Now let us see how the remaining process will be going on in classic MapReduce. So here you just observe that the MapReduce framework will consider the entire task into two different ways. One is data processing and another one is distribution mechanism. So there are two different mechanisms are exist here itself. Okay, so the MapReduce program will be taken care of processing your data, whereas other parts is taken care of for all these activities. So what is the job of job tracker? It just initializes the job. That means the task assignment and all. So the task tracker run a simple loop that periodically sends heartbeat method calls to the job tracker. All right. So this, which we have discussed in the previous classes, with the help of these heartbeats only, it is able to, the job tracker is able to identify what are the active data nodes in the cluster. Okay, so whenever if the as a part of the heartbeat, a task tracker will indicate whether it is ready to run a new task, and if it is the job tracker will allocate it a task, which it communicates to the task tracker using the heartbeat return value, right? So whenever if it passes the data node, that means the task tracker passes information to the job tracker like I am ready. Immediately, if the tasks are pending, job tracker will assign a particular task to this particular task tracker so that it starts its execution, right? So in such a way, the job tracker will identify what are the task trackers that are available or free now or ideal now, so that it will allocate the task to those particular task trackers. Internally you just remember that task tracker is running at a data node. So when it assigns the task to the data node, in the sense it assigns the task to the task manager itself, right? So task trackers have, the next point is, task trackers have fixed number of slots for map tasks and as well as for reduced tasks. For example, if the task tracker may be able to run 2 map tasks and 2 reduce tasks simultaneously. So how many number of maps, as I told you in the last class, how many number of maps should be created and how many number of reducers should be created. For that, there is a certain formula. By using that, we are supposed to be create. So at the outset, you can think that it all depends upon the configuration of your systems that are running on the clusters itself. Because if it is a low configured system, it is unable to handle the large volume of data because of lack of storage area and lack of processing capacities, right? So keeping all these points in brain, and they have defined a formula. Very soon we will discuss about that formula. So until then, you just remember that how many number of maps and how many number of reducers are supposed to be run in the particular data node. For that, we need to follow certain formula, right? So that is the reason always they are fixed. Fixed in the sense it depends upon the one system to another system. So for a particular system, how many number of maps should be executed and how many number of reducers should be executed will be fixed. In that case, the job tracker will not assign more than the fixed size of map tasks and reduce tasks, right? So next, the task execution. Now that the task tracker has been assigned a task, the next step is for it to run the task, right? Once everything is fine and the job tracker is assigned a task to the task tracker, so if everything went well, then it is the time for execution of that particular task. So for that, what are the steps that are involved in it while running your application is, the first is it localizes the jar files by copying it from the shared file system to the task tracker's file system. As you can observe in the diagram, it accesses the task tracker, receives the job, it accesses the information from the shared file system, because by using this, it is going to run the task which it was allocated, right? So jar file in the sense Java archive file, just like our WinZip. So it contains all the information which is related to that particular job. Okay, like the input paths, Hadoop local paths, and output paths. These all things are available in that jar file. So those will be copied into the task tracker's file system. So it also copies any files needed from the distributed cache by the application to the local disk. Okay, then it creates local working directory for the task and unjars the content of jar into this directory. So that means once these files are copied, once this zipped file is copied into the local file system of task tracker, what is the next step? It need to be unzip it. Okay, in order to access those files, it need to be unzipped. So in the similar way here also, it unjars the contents of the jar file into the local directory. And last, the third step is it creates an instance of task runner to run the task. So it creates an instance for the task runner. For that, this particular job will be assigned. You can see the diagram, child JVM. So it creates it is an instance of this task tracker. For that, this particular task is going to be executed. Suppose in the meanwhile, after starting this job, if job tracker is assigned some other task to this, what happens is it will create another instance for it, like another JVM. Okay, that will be taken care by the execution of the next allocated job. Okay, like that the process will be going on. And task runner launches a new JVM to run each task in, so that any bugs in the user defined map and reduce functions do not affect the task tracker. It will not affect the other functionalities of the task tracker, even though if the errors are present in the map and reduce logics that you have 10, right? So that is the task assignment process. Now let us see what is the progress. How do you know the progress and status updates? Because it is a batch processing. The MapReduce jobs are long running batch processing jobs. It may take minutes to hours for the completion of the execution. Meanwhile, you have a doubt whether my process is running properly or not, or what are the is there any issues like that. You might have some doubts. So how do you clear those doubts? By knowing the status or progress of your application running. So for that, what it did is a job and each of its tasks have a status which includes such things as the start of the job or task. Okay, so the state of this job will be known, like whether it is running or successfully completed or failed. So these are the three stages at any given point of time. A job or a task will be there. Okay, so the progress of map and reduces the values of the jobs counters and status message or description, right? So this progress will be shown to you in the form of either it is running or it is completed successfully or it is failed. Okay, when a task is running, it keeps track of its progress, that is the portion of the task completed. For map tasks, this is the portion of the input that has been processed. For reduced task, it is a little more complex, but the system can still estimate the proportion of the reduced input process. So at outset, you can observe at any given point of time, if you want to know the status, yes, it is possible to know the status of your application. Whether it is you want to know the process of mapper also, you can. You want to know the status of reducer also, you can, but it is a little bit complex while knowing those values, right? So and at the end, after processing all these things, finally it need to be displayed as the whether it is completed or not. Before going to the completion of this task is when the job tracker receives a notification that the last task for a job is complete. Task means, as you know, the input is going to be split into blocks. Those blocks will be distributed to various data nodes. In all the data nodes, the allotted blocks are stored, and on which the task tracker will run whatever the MapReduce job that you have defined. That means whatever the program, in the previous case we have developed a program for weather data set analysis, right? Let us assume that in that whatever the input that is present in the input file, let us assume that 4 lines are present in it. First line will be allocated to first mapper, second line will be allocated to second mapper, like that. For those 4 lines are allocated to 4 mappers. Mapper logic. 4 mapper logics in the sense the input is split into 4 blocks. Those 4 blocks are stored in 4 different data nodes. Okay, so on which the map logic and the reducer logic will be applied. So the processing of that map logic and reducer logic will be taken care of by task tracker. Hope you are clear with this, right? So that is the mean. Last task in the sense, one system, if it is an efficient system or a highly configured system, probably it may produce the output within no time. And some other system for which it was allocated, maybe less configuration system, probably it will produce the results maybe a little bit later when compared with the highly configured system. So, but it is the responsibility of the job tracker to wait until completion of all the tasks. It may not, it is not possible to respond whenever the output comes. Suppose the highly configured system produces output within no time. The job tracker will not respond with that output because the whole output need to be consolidated. So for that purpose, it needs to wait for until the completion of the tasks that are to be done by all the data nodes. Correct? And once if everything is went well, so it changes the status for the job as successful. Okay, so then when the job polls for the status, it learns that the job has completed successfully, so it prints a message to tell the user and then return from the wait for completion method. As I told you while submission of this job, okay, somewhere. So here you can observe that in the job submission, once it was submitted successfully, having submitted the job, wait for completion polls the jobs, right? So this is the method which will return. My screen is visible to everyone because here it shows something other than this. Okay, fine. Okay, okay, correct, correct. So So it exits from the wait for completion method because it all the job has executed successfully. So at last, the job tracker cleans up its working state for the job and instruct task trackers to do the same. So once everything is executed successfully, it clears the, because there is no need of maintaining the information regarding that job after completion of it, right? Suppose if you want to execute the same in the next time, now what happens? Immediately while executing the second time, it will create the whatever the necessary things that are required, those will be created while running that application. After completion of that job, it need not maintain the information regarding all, but during the execution of the MapReduce job itself only, it has to maintain the information, right? So it avoids by doing like that, we can save the space, because even though if you keep it, there is no use of it, right? So that is the something about this classic MapReduce programming. So that is Hadoop 1.0. Now let us move to the MapReduce 2, that is YARN, yet another resource negotiator. So there are some problems with the previously existing framework. After discussing YARN, we will see the differences. What are the differences that exist between classic one MapReduce 1 and 2, right? So, but just for creation of interest, I just explain a few points so that you will have the idea what way the YARN is useful when compared to the Hadoop 1.0. Hadoop 1.0, or I can call it as a classic. Don't be confused. Both of them are first version of Hadoop. This is the second version of MapReduce framework, right? So suppose when you are creating the clusters with huge number of data nodes, for example, if the cluster size is more than 4,000, that means a cluster contains the number of data nodes which are more than 4,000. In that case, with the previous version of the MapReduce framework 1.0, Hadoop 1.0, it is unable to handle. Practically, it was proven. So that is the reason why people have developed another map. Not only that reason, there are so many issues are there. Like, so here you can observe that issue of availability, issue of scalability, cascading failures, multi-tenancy issues. There are so many issues are there. So with these all issues leads to the development of another framework, MapReduce framework, that is YARN. Okay, so it was initially it was started developing it in the year 2010, but finally it was released in 2013. Okay, so ARM meets the scalability. Scalability in the sense, even though the number of systems are added to the clusters, the performance will not fall down, right? So as I told you, if the cluster size is greater than 4,000, then definitely there exists a problem with the previous framework. All right. So now ARM meets the scalability shortcomings of classic MapReduce by splitting the responsibilities of the job tracker into separate entities. Here, in the previous case, everything will be taken care by job tracker itself regarding the job. I'm talking about the job execution, right? Job tracker itself, it need to be scheduled. It need to be assigned the task to the task manager. It need to be supervised, the scheduling process and all. So all these activities are done by job tracker itself. Let us assume that if it gets failed, the job tracker gets failed, what happens in that case? We need to restart all the jobs, because there is no alternative like secondary name node. There is no alternative like knowing the whether the job tracker is running or not with the help of heartbeats and all. If a data node is failed, yes, we have a mechanism. How do we know whether it is in active state or not? But there is no such kind of mechanism is exist with the job tracker. So what we have to do? We need to restart all the jobs. So that is the reason why the MapReduce in the Hadoop 2.0, why it was split it into two different entities. The job tracker responsibilities are divided into two entities. One is the job tracker takes care of both job scheduling and task progress monitoring. Job scheduling in the sense matching the task with the task trackers, that is assigning it to the task trackers, and progress monitoring, that is it keeps track of tasks and restarting failed or slow tasks and doing task bookkeeping such as maintaining counter totals. These all things are comes under the category of task progress monitoring. Okay, so ARM separates these two roles into two independent demands. One is resource manager and another one is application master. Okay, resource manager and application master. Resource manager is responsible for job scheduling, whereas application master is responsible for task progress monitoring. What are the okay? So in such a way, ARM will divide the tasks into two different demands. Okay, so a resource manager to manage the use of resources across the cluster, and an application manager master to manage the life cycle of applications running on the cluster. So these are the two different responsibilities of the resource manager. Don't worry, we will see elaborately what is the functionalities of resource manager and application manager. So what is the idea that behind this is application master negotiates with the resource manager for cluster resources, because all the resources are available or under the supervision of resource manager. Task manager, application manager, just it negotiate with the resource manager what are the resources that are required for the execution of a particular task. Okay, and it described in terms of number of containers, each with a certain cluster resource, certain memory limit, then runs applications specific process in those containers. So whatever the resources that are needed to run the task, the application master will negotiate with the resource manager, and resource manager in turn it will allocate certain resources to this particular task. Okay, so whatever the resources that are allocated for this particular task based on the request made by the application master, okay, those resources are only used by the application master, right? You don't have right to enter into the other resources even though they are free. Okay, so in such a way it restricts the application master to work with a particular resources in order to complete the task. Okay, so the containers are seen by node managers running on cluster nodes, which ensures that the application does not use more resources than it has been allocated, as I told you. Okay, so Here a MapReduce job has a dedicated application master which runs for the duration of the application. So here the application master will take care of right from the beginning of the execution of the task to the end of the task. All the things will be supervised by the application master. Whereas in the previous framework, all the things need to be monitored by job tracker. Of course, task tracker is responsible for executing the task itself only, but whether it is working or not will be known by the job tracker by conducting the polls. The task tracker need to respond with the heartbeat messages. This should be going on continuously. But here it is not the case. The application master itself will take care of all the responses. Just simply whatever the resources that are essential for the execution of the task will be allocated by resource manager. That's it. There ends the job of resource manager. Okay, it will take care of other housekeeping activities, whatever is there regarding the other jobs and all. Okay, once it was allocated to the application master, it is the responsibility of the application master to complete the allocated task. In such a way, it will appoint some sub-supervisors to take care of the subtasks. We can imagine in such a way. Right? So here the beauty of ARN design is the different ARN applications can coexist on same cluster. That means you have developed a program in Hadoop 1.0 and someone has developed a program in Hadoop 2.0 and someone has developed a program in Hadoop 3.0. All these are executed simultaneously in the same containers, right? But whereas in the previous case, we'll execute only one at a time. Okay. So it brings great benefits for the manageability and cluster utilization. So whenever if it allows different versions to run simultaneously, what happens in that case? It efficiently uses the number of nodes, data nodes which are available in the cluster itself. Right? Next, furthermore, it is even possible for users to run different versions, as I told you. And MapReduce on Yarn involves more entities than classic MapReduce. It will have more entities than classic MapReduce. They are the client which submits the MapReduce job, the Yarn resource manager which coordinates the allocation of compute resources on the clusters. Okay, and the Yarn node managers which monitor the compute containers on machines in the clusters. Okay, so now let us see the diagram for this Yarn implementation and then we'll come back so that you can easily understand what is happening over there. So this is it visible to everyone? So this is the diagram, which is just like at the outset, if you look, which is similar to the classic MapReduce framework. See here the run the job, here the job tracker will be there. So the job tracker will assign the task to the task tracker. But here it is not the case. Here also the same name nodes, the same data nodes are present, but the way it organizes all these things are different. The way it organizes is entirely different when compared with the classic MapReduce. Okay, so here you just observe that similar to the classic, you just upload you just run the job as the way we'll discuss all these steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What happens in the first step, second step, and all. Okay, so once you submit the job, the resource, what is the job of the resource manager? So it need to create a new job ID, right? In the classic, here also it need to create a new application master for execution of your job. Before creating it, what resource manager does is it need to be communicate with the resources that are required for the execution of the job. Say for example, how many data nodes are required, because when it's splitting the input into number of blocks, suppose it was split it into 10 blocks. So how many data nodes are required? 10 data nodes are required. So it need to verify whether 10 data nodes are available or not in the cluster. Okay, so if it is available, so immediately it will allocate an application master with the 10 data nodes which are free. Okay, now here the node manager and the MR application master, these are the two important aspects. Okay, so see, don't be confused, all the process is same. That means you submit the job, all the files which are related to that job will be stored in the HDFS. Once the resources are allocated, once the data nodes are allocated for the sufficient data nodes are allocated for executing your job, so they will access the data which is available in the shared file system in order to complete the process. Here also the process will be the same but with a different manner, right? Once again, we'll come back to the diagram. So here you can observe that the node manager which launch and monitor the containers on the machines in the cluster. Okay, so you can think that a node manager itself and application manager, so these two will run on a data node instead of task tracker. These two are running in the data node. Similarly, other data nodes. So you can imagine in such a way, right? And because the node manager is essential for managing all the nodes or all the containers, where because sometimes the same data node may executing two different tasks. Will it possible or not? For the same data node, will it possible to assign different blocks of different applications at a time or not? Yes, it is possible. One application, suppose application 1 input split 1 will be allocated to data node 1. Application n input split n will be allocated to data node 1 itself. It is possible. Otherwise, if only one block will be allocated to one data node until completion of all the things, other jobs have to wait. There is no use of this Hadoop environment. Okay, so for monitoring all these things, we require node manager and the MapReduce application master, which coordinates the tasks running the MapReduce job. The application master and the MapReduce tasks run in the containers that are scheduled by resource manager and managed by the node manager. Now you can try to understand with the help of this diagram. Node manager, okay, it is the container. So what it does, so whatever the task that it was allocated, for that it creates an instance. With that it try to execute the job. Okay, and once it was completed, it passes information to the resource manager with the help of application master regarding the status of the MapReduce program. Now let us quickly see what are the responsibilities of the various components which are present in the Yarn MapReduce framework. So resource manager, what is the responsibility of the resource manager is, it is the global resource scheduler, because here also it exists only one as the way job tracker is existing in the previous version. But here it delegates its responsibilities to some other rather than keeping all the responsibilities at one place. Okay, so it just simply delegates it so that whenever if something went wrong with that particular node also, it need not be start all other jobs. Whereas in the case of previous version, if the job tracker gets failed, we need to restart all the jobs. But here it is not the case, right? And it runs on the master node of the cluster. Yes, it is also running on the, as the way the job tracker is running, here also it is running on the master node of the cluster, and it is responsible for negotiating the resources of the system among the competing applications. So it have the information regarding all the data nodes which are available. It always keeps track of maintaining the how many data nodes are busy, how many data nodes are free, and whenever someone made a request to allocate certain data nodes to particular application, okay, so immediately based on the information available with it, it will be allocated, and it keeps track on the heartbeats from the node manager, right? Again, because the node manager, once the data nodes are allocated, okay, so the status of completion and the working functionality, whether they are inactive or not, these all things will be recorded from node manager. So these are the responsibilities of the resource manager. And what is the responsibility of the node manager is, node manager communicate with the resource manager. It runs on the slave nodes on the cluster. That means it is running on the data node always. This is the entry point for the communication between resource manager and the data node. And application master. So there is one application master per application. You just remember this point. For each and every application, the node manager creates an application master instance for the execution of that particular application. As the way task tracker is creating an instance for the task tracker for each task, in the similar way, here also it will be done, which is application specific or framework specific. The application master runs in the containers that are created by the resource manager on request. So whatever the containers that are created, okay, on which it is running, you can see here itself. So this is the application master. Application master will run on the container where a particular container is allocated by the resource manager for this particular task. So here the node manager will create the task JVM, the ARM child. So whatever the resources that are required, that will be retrieved from this, and finally it executes the job. Okay, so this is node manager node, and initially it contains these two parts. So we will see once again how the job submission process and all, right? So the distributed file system, which is used for sharing the job files between other entities, right? What is the use of distributed file system? We'll make the input into blocks, and those blocks will be stored at different places, right? So that is the just a minute. Okay. And so here, what are the steps that are involved in job submission? In the previous case, with the help of job submitter interface, we can submit the data. So now, what is the process here while submitting the job? So the jobs are submitted in MapReduce 2 using the same user API as MapReduce 1. Okay, whatever the way which we have submitted, in the similar way, we can submit here also. Okay, and it has implementation of client protocol that is activated when the MapReduce framework, that name is set to YAR. Okay, so the same way we need to set the name of the job. Okay, as we have seen in the driver code in the last example. The submission process is very similar to the classic implementation. The new job ID is retrieved from the resource manager rather than the job tracker. Here we will use the name as resource manager. Okay, so from that it will create the new job ID. Okay, job initialization. Now how it is going to be started, its execution is when the resource manager receives a call to its submit application, it hands off the request to the scheduler. The scheduler allocates a container, and the resource manager then launches the application master's process there under the node manager's management. Under the node manager's management. Here you can observe that 5A, 5B. So once it was submitted, Okay, the resource manager will create a node manager. In that, it launches the application master in the node manager itself. Right? And once it was done, the application master initializes the job by creating number of bookkeeping objects to keep track of the job's progress. That means whatever is essential for running, that is input files, output files, okay, the configuration files. So those all things are available. Where it is available? They are available at shared file system like HDFS. From that, it will retrieve all the things which are essential for running this job, and it will receive the progress and completion reports from the tasks. Okay. Next, it retrieves the input splits computed in the client from the shared file system. It then creates the map task object for each split and the number of reduced task objects determined by the map reduce job reduces property. That means, so based on the input splits, suppose two blocks are allocated to this particular node. What happens in that case? It creates two different mappers, right? And suppose if one is enough for it, one reducer is enough for it, then automatically it creates the one reducer object. So in such a way, the job in the start execution of the job will be started with the help of resource manager and then node manager and then application master. This is the flow. And now task assignment. In the previous cases, it will be verified. First, job ID will be created, and next, it verifies the input path, whether it is properly specified or not, and it looks for the output path, if it is already exists with the name or not. So, and finally, it copies the all the resources that are essential for executing this job, like jar files, and all these will be copied into the job trackers file system in the case of classic. And finally, it passes information, yes, I am ready for the execution. So these are the 5 steps that are involved in the task assignment in classic. Now let us see what is happening in the yarn. The application master requests containers for all the map and reduce tasks in the job from the resource manager. Each request, which are piggybacked on heartbeat calls, includes information about each map task data locality, in particular the host and corresponding racks that the input splits resides on. You need to observe this diagram, right? So here you can check, allocate the resource. So while starting the execution, okay, so it need to be capture the information from the resource manager, what are the resources that are allocated for it, okay, and retrieve the input splits on which it is supposed to be applied. The map and reducer logic is supposed to be applied, and start the container and launch the JVM itself. So these are the steps that are involved in task assignment and task execution. Once the task has been assigned a container by the resource manager scheduler, the application master starts the container by contacting the node manager. So the task is executed by Java application whose main class is yarn child. Right? Before it can run the task, it localizes the resources that the task needs, including the job configuration and all. And finally, it runs the map or reduce task. Okay. So whatever the resources that are essential, they will be collected, and with that, it try to finish the execution of the job. So that is about yarn framework. Okay. Now, in the next class, we will see the key differences that exist among the classic and yarn. That is Hadoop 1.0 and Hadoop 2.0. G8, G8, unmute yourself. G8.
Hadoop.
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 ఏంటిది పంపిరాట
right? So, so in the next class, we will see how do we, what are the differences that exist between these two APIs, and then we'll move to the implementation parts of mapper codes, reducer codes, and all. Right? Hope you all clear with these two frameworks. I will share the document today with the complete information regarding these two. You please go through it, and if you have any queries, those I will answer in the next class. Or otherwise, if you have any small doubts, you can ask right now. No issue. Anybody? Any queries? Today's class absentees are 98, D2, G2, and I2. 4 absents. Any queries? Any doubts? Okay. So I'll share this complete information regarding this document. You please go through it. Okay? Right. So now I will end the session. Thank you.